Ja, guten Tag, die passen sehr, sehr gut zusammen über Kant und jetzt kommt Hegel. Ich muss nur sagen, dass Kant eben gestorben war oder bei der Iranischen Revolution und das könnte natürlich eine sehr interessante Unterschied gemacht, hätte er gelebt. Aber also Entschuldigung, ich lese auf Englisch, aber das, was ich geschrieben habe, ist auf Deutsch wunderschön übersetzt von Surkamp. Also, bitteschön, ja, okay. In the 1990s, as I was teaching the phenomenology of mind, a question kept plaguing me. Hegel conceived of the dialectic of Herrschaft und Knechtschaft precisely at the moment of the Haitian Revolution, when real slaves revolted against real masters to gain their freedom in a struggle to death for recognition as equals. This first successful overthrow of modern slavery that was simultaneously a successful anti-colonial struggle for independence ended in January 1806, and that was the very year that Hegel completed writing the Phenomenology of Mind. Hence the persistent question, was there a connection? Official Hegel scholarship was silent, providing not a clue. All agreed that Hegel's understanding of revolution was grounded in the actuality of the French Revolution. It was well known that his understanding of the politische Ökonomie was based on his reading in 1803 of the German translation of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations. But Hegel's understanding of slave revolt, when acknowledged by scholars as more than a mere metaphor, was connected by scholars to an event millennia ago, the Spartacus slave uprising in ancient Rome in 73 BCE. So this scholarly consensus seemed to me implausible. But es ist sehr schwierig, gegen einen Konsens zu gehen, besonders als jüngere Studentin, ja, oder ich war schon Professorin, aber ich war nicht ganz hoch, ja. So the question was, all agreed was there a connection? All agreed that Hegel's understanding of revolution was grounded. I read that in Entschuldigung. The scholarly consensus seemed implausible. It set me off on a multi-year search into historical sources, crossing with impunity the knowledge boundaries that historical scholarship itself had produced. Caribbean historians do not study German philosophy. Historians of Germany focused on the question of national unity, in which Caribbean history plays no role, although it is interesting, I don't know how many know, that in the 1830s and 40s, German laborers came to Jamaica as indentured servants, imported as agricultural workers, and businessmen from Germany were in Puerto Rico in order to avoid the tariff. Writing on Hegel was censored in France under Napoleon, who imprisoned the revolutionary leader Toussaint Louverture in the failed French attempt to recapture the most profitable of their colonies, then named, of course, Saint-Domingue. Und ich wollte nur sagen, dass die Rolle des Kapitalismus sehr, sehr stark in dieser Geschichte ist. Und man spricht nur über Kolonialismus und darf das nicht machen und nicht Kapitalismus auch dabei haben. Ja? Es ist nicht nur die Ökonomie, es ist die kapitalistische Ökonomie. France was definitively defeated with the Haitian Revolution's success and spent the next 4 decades focused on reparations for plantations lost to French citizens during the revolt. Hegel's writings, as they have been passed down to us, and I found this fascinating when I was doing my research, there are many blind spots and missing links in the massive Hegel scholarship that has been produced. these writings that we have do not name the Haitian struggle when it happened. Several mentions of Haiti occur in Hegel's later writings, but without intellectual philosophical support for anti-colonial struggles. Knowledge boundaries and national exclusions have buried another story, however, one that cautions us to be wary of the historian's capacity to obscure the past in the very process of constructing it. When I return to the primary documents of this revolutionary moment, I found evidence that Europeans were thinking about the Haitian Revolution, especially in England and Germany. The slave revolt was being written about in multiple newspapers and journals. William Wordsworth wrote a sonnet to Toussaint Louverture that appeared on the front page of the Morning Post in February 1803. Even those who opposed this remarkable event considered it to be worthy of the contemplation of philosophers. Quote, "The eyes of the world are now on Saint-Domingue." So begins an editorial in 1804, published by Johann Wilhelm von Artenholz, who was the editor of a journal called Minerva, the most important political journal of the era. And for a full year, from 1804 to 1805, as editor of Minerva, Artenholz published a continuing series totaling more than 100 pages, including source documents, news summaries, and eyewitness accounts that not only informed readers of the final struggle for independence of this most valuable French colony, and the struggle occurred under the banner Freiheit oder Tod, liberty or death, but provided a retrospective history of the island struggles from their beginnings in 1792. The historical record shows that among the readers of Minerva were Goethe, Schiller, Schelling, Klopstock, Lafayette, and the Prussian King Wilhelm II, who was a regular reader of the journal Minerva, and so was the young philosopher currently writing The Phenomenology of Mind, Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hegel was only 34 years old, just beginning his career as lecturer at the University of Jena. He found himself with no job, no reputation, no job security, no tenure, no reputation as a serious philosopher, and not even a secure place to live, roof over his head, as he had recently conceived a child with his landlord's wife. It was this moment of precarity that Hegel cast his lot with an international impulse to acknowledge humanity's universal striving for freedom beyond nation and beyond race. Without a doubt, Hegel knew about real slaves and their revolutionary struggles. And perhaps the most radical political expression in his career, he used the sensational events of Haiti as the linchpin of his argument in The Phenomenology of Mind, or Spirit. The actual and successful revolution of the Caribbean slaves against their masters is the moment when the dialectic of recognition becomes visible as the thematics of world history, the story of the universal realization of reason, of freedom and reason, because freedom and reason are one. Theory and reality converged at this historical moment, or to put it in Hegelian language, the rational freedom became real. This is the crucial point for understanding the origin of Hegel's argument, by which philosophy burst out of the confines of academic theory and became a commentary on the history of the world. Also auf Deutsch, Hegels Denken nahm seinen Ausgang in der konkreten historischen Erfahrung der haitianischen Revolution und wandte sich von dort aus der Geschichte insgesamt zu, nicht umgekehrt. Das ist die Hauptsache. The nucleus of his argument was the contemporary event. It provided historical concreteness to his philosophical claim that the struggle for mutual recognition is the key to the trajectory of history in its entirety. The Haitians did not enter history by revolting against masters. They made history and enacted its spirit of universal freedom as their goal. The discursive phenomenon that has been constructed under the name Hegel privileges his mature work, beginning with the Science of Logic in 1812, that explicates a totalizing theory through abstract arguments purified of the ontic messiness that he called die faule Existenz. Das muss dann irgendwie wegfallen. Und dann hat man abstrakt der Begriff, ja, of the faule Existenz of which empirical history is comprised. With this move to theoretical completion, Hegel's philosophy of history became incorporated within the modern myth of history as progress that functioned to justify whoever wins in history and thus to rationalize the irrational, to redeem the irredeemable, rather than to inspire the present with the practices of liberation. Hegel's radical potential was taken up by Marx's interpretation of the class struggle for future liberation from slave labor as the historical goal. A colonialist reading of Hegel came later, based on an ontology of racial difference that was not uniquely German. This must be remembered. It was Naturwissenschaft, die wirklich diese Theorie von Rassendifferenzen wirklich stark geprägt haben. Und das war in Harvard University, überall in Amerika und überall und nicht nur Europa und nicht nur natürlich Deutschland. If at first the superiority of Europe was justified by Christianity, its Christian faith, Hegel infers as much in multiple instances. Then in the late 19th century, scientized racism, racial superiority as an immutable fact of nature, was the justification used by European colonial powers to appropriate progress as its own. I realized that I'm being told about the time. Okay. So I just want to say two more things. The assertion of history as progress is empirically inaccurate. The world spirit regresses so badly that no single progressive achievement allows us to stop the critical inquiry of historical events. This experience demands that the relationship between philosophy and history be construed in the negative. Philosophy is the watchdog of history. It relentlessly exposes when and how history as it actually transpires is not rational. The point is that no one group, no one collective owns the history of recognition and freedom. Human progress is a discontinuous tradition. Both radical anti-slavery in 1805 and radical anti-racism today are human inventions that belong to no one because they belong to everyone. Such ideas are the residues of events rather than the possession of any particular collective. And even if they fail, they can never be forgotten. Thank you.